What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through all of my favorite holy grail makeup brushes. I actually do get a lot of questions about makeup brushes, and it has taken me a little bit of time to put together my absolute favorite collection of brushes from a whole bunch of different brands. And when I started my makeup journey, that was actually one of the biggest mysteries to me. Like, what brushes should I be using for what purpose? Is it worth it to spend $135 on one brush? Does price matter? Does quality matter? Does the style of bristles matter? Like, everything to do with makeup brushes was such a mystery to me. And honestly, I don't know tons about makeup brushes to this day, but I do want to take you through what's in my brush roll and tell you about the types of makeup brushes that I have found work best for me. Just before we get into today's video, if you are new here, welcome. My name is mickaeladawn. I would love to have you join the family, so please make sure you hit that subscribe button before you leave. And if you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. So let's go ahead and get into the video. If you want to see what all of my favorite holy grail makeup brushes are and what's in my brush roll that I use on a daily basis, keep watching. So this is my brush roll. This is a brush roll from Morphe brushes. It's like faux leather and it holds 18 brushes, but I have 19 stuffed in here. So I have like 2 put into one slot. So I'm gonna take you through everything that's in here. I also have 2 other canisters of brushes. I have one for face brushes and one for kind of eye brushes. These are the brushes that I don't really use on a regular basis, but I will sometimes reach for what's in these canisters if I need it for a particular reason. And also, like, there are a number of brushes in here that I have not washed. Unfortunately, I did not want to wash all of these brushes just for this video. But there's some brushes in here that I've used really bright colors with. So this one I used a super bright yellow eyeshadow with. This one I used a green one right here. So I will also use these brushes when I'm going in with a super bright color and I don't want to dirty my makeup brushes that I use on a regular basis with that super bright color. The makeup brushes that I'm going to be showing you today are the ones that I use every day to achieve my regular makeup looks. And this is also the brush roll that I take with me when I'm traveling. So I actually keep all of my most used makeup brushes in this container at all times. I have this with my makeup collection and I will roll it out on my vanity when I'm doing my makeup in the morning. And then also when I'm traveling, I just grab this and take all of these brushes with me. It's pretty compact and I like the way that it sort of holds all the makeup brushes. It protects the bristles. None of them really like fall out. Like, it's a pretty good makeup brush holder. So it works for me both at home and when I'm traveling. So now when you open up the brush roll, it actually has these magnetic clasps on the side here. So it stays shut the whole time. I have another brush roll that has like a tie on it and I just found that to be kind of annoying. So that's why I picked this one up from Morphe probably about a year and a half ago. And then when you open it all of the way up, all of the brushes are in there like that. So I'm going to take you through all of these makeup brushes. Okay, so this is the whole brush roll. These are all the makeup brushes that I use on a daily basis. I don't use all of them every single day, but these are the ones I reach for the most. So I'm going to start with the face brushes over here and then move to the eye brushes over here. So the first brush in my brush roll is this one. You guys already know this is the Tom Ford bronzer brush. This brush costs $135 Canadian for this one brush. And you know what? I regret nothing. This is such an amazing bronzer brush. I use this every single day for my bronzer. I just love the way it applies. It's so fluffy and the bristles are so beautiful and it just like deposits the bronzer onto the face just so evenly and nicely. I love the fact that it has these tiered bristles. So like there's shorter ones down here and then there's taller ones up here, so you can contour a light contour with this brush if you want to, but it also is really great for blending out contour and also just depositing a lot of product in a short amount of time. This is such an amazing brush, and I've said this on my channel before, like, do you need this in your collection? No, there are other bronzer brushes that will put bronzer on your face and will end up in the same place, but I just love this brush so much, and for me it was so worth the money. It just feels so luxurious using this brush in the morning. Feels nice on my face. So I really, really love this brush. The next brush I have in my roll is the Morphe M527. And this is just a lighter, less dense version of a bronzer brush that I reach for when I don't want to put on too much bronzer. So there are times when I'm going for like a 10-minute makeup look, I'll put on some powder foundation and then I just want to add a little bit of bronzer, and that's when I'll reach for this brush instead of my Tom Ford one. The Tom Ford one has bristles that are a lot more dense, so this is like much more of a thick, fluffy brush. And so it's gonna pick up a lot more product and it's gonna deposit a lot more of that product onto your face. This one is a little bit less dense, it has less bristles, and it's a little bit skinnier. So it is gonna pick up less product and deposit less product onto your face. So it really just depends on what kind of makeup look I'm going for which of these brushes I'm gonna reach for. But I have them both in my makeup collection because I'd say it's about 50% of the time that I do a full beat, and 50% of the time when I do my makeup, I just want like something quick so that I can look presentable and leave the house. So that's why these are both in my brush roll, but I would highly recommend both of them. This one was $135 and this one I think was $19 or something crazy like that. Like, wasn't expensive at all. You'll see a lot of Morphe brushes in my brush roll, and that is because I truly believe that Morphe brushes are the best quality for the price. So obviously this brush is not going to be as high quality as this one, nor would I expect it to be because of the massive price difference between the two of them. For me, somebody who like, I don't really take excellent care of my makeup brushes. I don't even wash them once a week. I don't even know how often you're supposed to wash your makeup brushes, but I'm lucky if I do it once a month, seriously. And that might be bad and that might be gross, but I just don't have the time to like wash 18 brushes and dry them properly and everything like that. So I don't wash my brushes as often as I should. But I find that Morphe brushes, for the price, they kind of stand up to all of the wear and tear. And then when you do need to replace one, it's pretty inexpensive to do so. So that's why I like Morphe brushes. And if you're somebody who's not a Morphe fan, then that's fine. There are lots of other makeup brushes out there that you can buy. There's some affordable options like Real Techniques and all that kind of thing. Or you can spend a little bit more on like the Sigma type brushes, or you can go all the way ham and buy all the Tom Ford brushes. It's up to you. But for me, I like to spend my money on makeup and less on tools. So I like Morphe because it's an affordable option. And then when I need to replace the brushes, even if it's a little bit sooner than what I normally would with a higher end brush, it's less expensive to do so. Now next in here is the Morphe M523 brush. And this is just sort of like a shorter, smaller version of this bronzer brush, the M527 that I just showed you. So what I use this M523 for is contouring, and I don't really like contour that often. Like, I wouldn't consider myself somebody who like chisels my face on a daily basis, but I do like kind of a sharp cheek sometimes. And so if I want a more kind of like cut cheek, I will go in with this brush first. I'll dip it into my contouring powder or my bronzer, and I will run it right along the cheek right here. And it just deposits a little bit of product and a little bit more of a precise line than something like this would. Like when you're going in with this brush, as you can see, it covers a lot of area. This one only covers a little bit of area, so you can actually carve out the cheek pretty easily. So what I'll do is I'll go in with this one first and I'll carve out the cheekbone really carefully, just lightly brushing the bronzer onto my cheek. And then I'll take my big Tom Ford bronzer brush and I will sort of buff that out in circular motions. So that's how I use this brush here. The next brush I have in my brush roll is the Morphe E34. This one is a little bit denser, and what I use this one for is blending out my blush and bronzer. So I really like the product on my cheeks to sort of like look really natural and blended together. And a lot of times, even despite my best efforts, I will go in with too much blush. And so what I use this brush exclusively for is just blending out my blush and my contour and my bronzer all together so that it looks really nice and blended out, and I don't have any harsh lines here. I don't have too much blush packed up right here, and that my blush and my bronzer is sort of like blending into each other and everything looks really like seamless and flawless. This is the only thing I use this brush for, honestly, I'm not kidding. I have no other use for it. It could also be used as a blush brush. Like, I think that you could use it to just sort of swirl blush onto the cheeks, but I don't like to use this for anything else because then if it's dirty and I go to blend out my blush and bronzer, I'm depositing more product onto my face. So I always keep this brush clean and I always use it to blend my products together. The next brush I have in my brush roll is actually a brush that I use for foundation, and this is the Morphe Y9. So I actually got this tip from Lipstick Nick, who's a makeup artist, and she's all over YouTube, and she constantly does all the big influencers makeup, and now she's working with Morphe full-time as like their kind of creative makeup director kind of a thing. And she said that this is a really good brush to use for foundation because it's smaller and you can be a little bit more precise with how you're blending it on. There's another brush brush that I use for foundation, and that is the Morphe M439 brush. This one is like kind of more stiff and dense, and you can use it to blend the foundation out. But I was finding that because it's so dense, I was getting a nicer application on my foundation with this brush because it was easier to kind of like shear it out, and you didn't have to like press so hard to smear like you would with this one. I still use this one from time to time, especially if I need like full coverage, because shearing out foundation with this when I need full coverage is not going to work. So I will still reach for this from time to time, but honestly, for the most part, I use a beauty blender or the Morphe Highlight and Contour Sponge to apply my foundation. Rarely do I use a brush, but I still like to have it just in case I forget to bring a beauty blender when I'm traveling. Then I have this, and I have something that I can put my foundation on with reliability, and like I know it's gonna look good. And also there's still days that I like to apply my foundation with a brush, just depending on how I'm feeling that day. So that's why I like to keep this one in my brush roll. So the next brush I have in here is the Morphe E3, and this is a pointed blending brush. This brush I use specifically for applying face powder. So loose powder or setting powder, I will use a beauty blender to kind of press it onto my face after I put my foundation on. This one I specifically use for pressed powder. So the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish powder or my Rimmel Stay Matte powder, I will go in with this brush and just like lightly brush all of the powder onto my face. I find that it's really soft and it applies the powder nice and evenly. And I also like that it has that pointed tip because then it's easy to get up underneath the eye if I need to. I will say the only thing that really annoys the hell out of me with Morphe brushes is I feel like this part really comes off easily. So there's been a number of Morphe brushes that I've had to fix like this. Like I find that the quality of these brushes is not super great. Like that would never ever in a million years happen with my Tom Ford brush. Like there's no way that this is coming apart. But on here, like I feel like these are glued in kind of sloppily. So I don't know, that's just like kind of my only beef with this. But for a brush that doesn't cost very much, like whatever, it's not a huge deal. If this comes off, I can just very easily and quickly order another one. But this one is getting a little bit loose right now. I just noticed that. So I'm gonna have to do something about that. But I really do love this brush for applying loose powder. I also will use this to brush away fallout because I find that the bristles are light enough that they don't sort of like smudge product into your face, and you can very easily and quickly wipe away baking, wipe away fallout, or apply some pressed powder onto your face. So this is the Morphe E3, and this is one of my favorite brushes from Morphe. Highly recommend. So this next brush in my brush roll is actually from Luxie Beauty, and this is their Pro Precision Tapered brush. I think I got this in a BoxyCharm box, I'm not sure, but I know that this has been a favorite on my channel before. You can see how loose and floppy this is. Like you can see that there's not a lot of bristles and there's not a lot holding the bristles in place. So they're very flexible, and that is perfect for applying blush for me because I can tend to go really overboard when it comes to blush, and also because of my rosacea, like I have to be very light-handed, otherwise I end up looking like a clown. And so I absolutely love this because it just like sweeps the blush onto the face like so easily and nicely, and then it's really easy to like go back and forth with it quickly and like kind of blend it out. So this is a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just like dust the blush onto my face like this, and it really gives me a beautiful sheer application. If I'm going for a more sort of opaque blush look, or I'm using a blush that is a little less pigmented, like the Physicians Formula Butter blushes, I really love them, but they're packed so tightly into the pan that using a brush like this, it's never gonna work. So in that case, I'll go in with the Morphe E4. This is the like tapered blush brush, and I'll like pick up a little bit more product with this because it's a lot more dense, and then I'll kind of like stamp it onto the face in that case. But for the most part, with my more pigmented blushes, I definitely use this one. I love the Morphe 9B blush palette. It's unfortunately discontinued, but those blushes are super pigmented. I love using this with my MAC blush and my Milani Luminoso. This is just my favorite blush brush, and it's the one I use most often. Definitely, I love it. The next brush in my brush roll is the Morphe M438, and I actually don't use this brush very much. I don't really suffer from darkness underneath my eyes. I'm lucky in that aspect, I have a lot of other problems with my face, but I don't suffer from dark circles. But on the days where I'm feeling like my eyes look really sallow or really dark and I need some brightening, that's what I'll use this brush for. So I will use this with the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder, or I will go in with like a highlight powder and I will just press under the eyes with this. And I really like that this brush is nice and dense. It's more dense than this one, so I wouldn't use this one for like brightening powder because I feel like I would put it underneath my eyes and it would just all get swept away. This one is a little bit easier because it's denser, so it holds more product and you can easily pack it under the eyes and it will like actually stay there. So I don't use this one a ton because I don't normally have problems with sallowness, but if I do feel like I look a little dead on a particular day, that's what I'll use this one for. And then the last face brush that I have in here, and it just kind of worked out that I have like half of my brush roll is face brushes and the other half is for eye brushes. But the last face brush I have in here is the Morphe M501, and this is my favorite brush for highlighting. I will never use anything else to highlight my face except this brush because it is so perfect. I love the fact that it's tapered, so you can put a lot of product on top or you can just add a little bit on the sides, and that can control how much highlighter you're depositing onto your face. I love how fluffy it is, so it just like nicely deposits the highlight on my face, and I can just like easily like quickly brush it all over the areas of my face that I want to put highlight on. And it just gives such a beautiful application. It is so, so, so good for highlight. It's like kind of a little baby version of this blush brush in the sense that it's like kind of floppy up here. It's a little denser than this one, but it gives you more flexibility in terms of like how much you want to put down. So if I want to put on like tons of highlight, I can press hard and really deposit it down. But if I only want like a subtle highlight or not too much product, I can go in really lightly with these tapered bristles and it will give me a lighter application. So this is such a great highlighting brush. And honestly, like I love all of these brushes and I would recommend absolutely all of them if you're looking for good brushes for your makeup collection, but this is like one of the #1 ones that I would recommend because it is so, so good for highlighting. Okay, so now moving on to the eye brush section of my brush roll, and the next 4 brushes I have in my collection are blending brushes, and they're all from Morphe. So the first one here is the Morphe E27, and this one is a blending brush, but it's actually like quite a bit fluffier and like bigger than a normal blending brush for me. I really favor the M441, which I'll get to in a second, and this one is bigger than the M441. And what I like to use this one for is actually blending out the top of my eyeshadow. So I don't really use this to deposit product, but what I will do is very similar to this one that I use for my face. I will keep this brush clean at all times, and I will use this without any product on it just to blend my shadows together, because I find that it works really well for that because it's so fluffy and it has so many bristles. So this one I basically just use for blending and nothing else. The next one I have in my collection is the M441 brush. This is my favorite blending brush of all time. It is so, so good, and this is the #1 brush that I would recommend. If you're gonna get any brushes from Morphe, let it be this one. This one I use to blend all of my colors into the crease. I will go in, usually on this brush, I'll go in with like 2 or 3 colors. So I'll use my transition shade, I'll use my crease shade, and then I'll go a little bit lower with a darker shade, and I will use this brush for all of those colors. And so I thought I actually had 2 M441s in my brush roll, but I realized that I bought an M518. And for me, this looks like the M441. Like when I look at these 2 brushes side by side, I'm like, they look exactly the same to me. I thought I was buying an M441. So when I actually looked at the number, I think this was like a couple months ago. When I looked at the number on the handle, I was like, what? I don't know. It says M518, but to me, it's the M441. They look exactly the same. Like, I guess this one's a little fatter, like has a little bit more bristles. I don't know. But these brushes, they look exactly the same to me, and I use them for the exact same reason. So the reason why I like to have 2 blending brushes that are basically the same in my brush roll is because, like I said, I don't wash my brushes every single week. So if I do like a super purpley makeup look with this one, and then the next day when I go to do my makeup, I want to do something brown or pink or like completely in another color family, I'll have a separate blending brush that I can use so that I don't have to wash my brushes as often. Maybe it's like a lazy hack, I don't know, but I just like having 2 blending brushes in my roll because this is the brush that I actually use most often. And then the last blending brush that I have in here is the M433, and this is like a smaller denser version than the M441. And I like using this one for darker colors on the outer corner. So I don't want to like dirty up my M441 with like 100 different colors. And I also don't want to use it for super dark colors because then it's going to be difficult to use it the next day for something else, right? So I go in with my darker colors with this brush, and it's easier to pack these colors into the outer corner with a denser brush. So these 4 blending brushes I love to have in my brush roll because I feel like used all together, they give me that like blown out, you know, like super smoky, super blended eye look, and I don't have to do as much brush laundry when I have all of these in my collection. Okay, so now moving on to the next brushes in my brush roll. These are shader brushes, and these are all from different brands. They're not Morphe, and they're 3 different sizes. So I have like small, medium, and large. So the first one, the biggest one, is actually from Ofra. This is their number 11 brush, and I really like to use this to pack on my brow bone highlight. And I also like to use this to pack on my like white shadow or whatever I'm using to set my eye primer with. I usually keep this brush pretty light, like I don't go in with any colors or anything on this. So if I do need to like go in with a color, I'll use like a different brush. Like this is the Ofra 20. I'll grab a different brush if I'm using like crazy colors and I need a shader brush, but for the most part, I just go in with like highlight colors and white colors with this one. So I'll go in with this and I'll set my eye primer down with like a white shadow, like Anastasia Blanc or whatever. And then later on when I'm done my makeup, I will also dip my brush into a little bit of highlight and highlight the brow bone with this one. The medium-sized one that I have is this, and this is from the brand Seta. I don't know, and it doesn't have anything else on here. I'm pretty sure I got this in a subscription box, but I absolutely love this brush, and I never want to get rid of it. It's so weird, like, how you come across brushes in different ways, and then they become, like, just so holy grail. But this one I use for packing on color on the lid. So this is the one I'll use if I'm going in with like a shimmery shadow and I'm gonna spray some Fix Plus, and then I'm gonna like pat it onto the eye, like right on this part of my eyelid. If I don't go with my finger, I will go in with this brush. So this is the one I find I'm having to wash pretty often along with those blending brushes because I use a lot of color with this one. And also it's like difficult to use it and then use it with a different color. You know what I'm saying? So I tend to wash this one quite a bit. And then my small one is from Alamar Cosmetics, and it doesn't actually say which one it is. It came with a set of 3. And this one I will actually use for putting concealer on and cutting the crease. So I will go in with a very small amount of concealer, and it's easy for me to kind of like drag this one up and pat concealer on the inside of my lid so that I can do a cut crease. I find this one is really good for that, and I like how stiff it is as well. So this one I basically just use for cutting the crease. So those are my shader brushes, and then getting into more detail work. The first one here, I have no idea where I got this brush. Honestly, no clue. It has no markings on it that I can see. It's old AF, and I've had it for the longest time. I think out of all of these brushes in my brush roll, I've had this one the longest, and I have no idea where I got it from. But this one I will always use to run it along the lower lash line. And I like the fact that it's curved, but I really like to use this one on the lower lash line. And I just like, I'm such a fan of this brush, like, so I will just never get rid of it, even though it's like a nothing brand. Like, I don't even know where it's from. And then also for the lower lash line, I have the Morphe E18, and this is what I will use to, after I go in with this angled brush and run this brush along the lower lash line, I will use this brush to blend out whatever it is I've put on the lower lash line. So I'll go in with a lighter shade. Like say if I went in with like a dark brown with that angled brush, I'll go in with like a medium brown or a lighter brown, and I will use that to smoke out and blend out my lower lash line. And then the last brush in my brush roll is one of my favorites. It is this one, the Morphe E36. And I use this one only and specifically for the inner corner. So always at the end of my eye makeup routine, I will go into my Sleek Solstice palette, I'll go into MAC Nylon, I'll go into Anastasia Soft Gold. I will pick up a little bit of product on this brush, and I will just boop it right into the inner corner. And this is the perfect size for just getting the exact right amount of product right in there. It seems kind of extra to have a brush that's just specifically dedicated to the inner corner, but for me, inner corner highlight is like it. It's like makes my eye makeup look so much more cohesive and makes my eyes look so much more bright. So I will like literally never leave the house without inner corner highlight on. So I absolutely love this brush for the inner corner. And that is it, you guys. Those are all of my favorite Holy Grail makeup brushes. Like I said before, I am not a makeup brush expert by any means. I don't even know the proper names for like the parts of the makeup brush. Like I know this thing has a proper name and the way it's pinched has a proper name and this has a proper name, and like the different kinds of bristles, like natural, goat hair, whatever, synthetic, like I know that there's all kinds of names for that and all that kind of stuff, and I have not taken the time to actually research and like learn too much about makeup brushes. I just wanted to share with you guys what my favorite ones are, what I think are good about them, and like what I use them for. So I hope you found this video helpful. If you guys have a favorite Holy Grail makeup brush that you did not see in this video today, please leave me a comment down below. I would love to know what your favorite makeup brushes are and what you're using and how you use them. And I would love recommendations from you guys for different brushes that I should try, because I'm always like changing brushes out of my brush roll as I get new makeup brushes and as I try new things. So please let me know what you guys love down in the comments below. And as always, guys, if you liked this video, please subscribe to my channel and leave me a comment down below letting me know the kind of videos you want to see me do in the future. And if you didn't like this video, keep that shit to yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.